Hello everyone, welcome to SSM Sharda Educations. So we have been seeing the first week of July's current affairs. So in that series, now we are going to see Indian polity and governance. So many important topics in this video we are going to see are like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Speaker of Legislative Assembly, a road safety quartet and the road ahead, World Drug Report, the new guidelines against service charges, draft national policy for persons with disability, state ranking index under NFSA, nominated members in Rajya Sabha. So all these topics are important both for preliminary examination and mains examination, and we'll see what points or what kind of questions can be expected in the UPSC examination. So first topic being Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So the Union Minister R.K. Singh on Thursday, especially while addressing the National Human Rights Commission conference in human rights of Indian context, he has given a statement that it is important to have prevention laws like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act so that it will prevent terrorism and terrorist beheading other people. So what is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is that it was passed in 1967 and it is aimed to prevent the unlawful activities associations in India. The main objective was to make the powers available to deal with activities directed against the integrity and sovereignty of India. It is an upgrade on terrorist and disruptive activities prevention, which is TADA, but later what happened, this TADA was lapsed in 1995. So the Prevention of Terrorism Act, POTA, was also repealed. POTA was also repealed in 2004. It was originally passed in 1967 under the reign of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Till 2004, unlawful activity means there is some disturbance in the territory. Later, Terrorist Act also has been included in this concept of list of offences under unlawful activities. The provision of this act also applies to citizens of India outside India. So what happens is that the provision of it applies to every person within our territory. Along with that, citizens of India who are outside India, they can be in any country, but they are citizens of India. Next is government servants, and they can be present anywhere in the world. And later, this is very interesting point, any person who is on a ship or aircraft and that is registered in India, that ship or aircraft can be wherever. But once the ship or aircraft is registered in India, then people in that also come under this provision of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So what is the recent amendment to this act is that the union government can designate an individual or an association as a terrorist organization when they are committing or participating in the act. That is, first is if they are doing an action or they are preparing to do some terrorism or they are promoting terrorism, all these three things come under the concept of terrorist organization. I am repeating, if a person or an individual or an organization is committing or participating in terrorism or they are preparing for terrorism or they are promoting terrorism, then they come under the concept of terrorist organization. So when they are involved in terrorism, what happens is that an approval from the Director General will be given to the seizure of their properties when there is an investigation going on individual or an organization by National Investigating Agency. So please be very careful and listen to this. Who is involved is National Investigation Agency. And the next point is that the rank of inspector or above in National Investigation Agency can investigate these cases. So what is the rank is? Inspector or above. Okay. Next is International Convention for Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism 2005 is also included in this act. Okay. So this is very, very important. Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It's an act for preventing. That is, we always know that there are two things: protection, prevention. Okay, so protection is something which is happening and you're protecting. Prevention is you stop from happening itself. So it's a prevention is a precautionary measure. This act is such precautionary measure against terrorism or other unlawful acts. And please keep it in mind that nuclear terrorism also comes under this Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Okay? Yes. So going to next, Speaker of Legislative Assembly. Every year we get question related to Speaker of Lok Sabha because it is one of the most important key person who is very important in the day-to-day activities of Lok Sabha. In that case, now we are going to see about the Speaker of Legislative Assembly. Why this is in news is that recently the Speaker of Maharashtra's Legislative Assembly, BJP candidate Rahul Narvekar, has won the election. So what is the constitutional provision related to Speaker of Legislative Assembly is that Article 178 of Constitution is related to Speaker of Legislative Assemblies of States. When it comes to Article 93, it is related to Speaker of Lok Sabha. Very, very important. Especially, there are questions among many people. Should I study every article in the Constitution? Not needed. But when there is a current affairs, when there is an important concept, that article definitely has to be kept in mind. And the article can be studied easily through comparison. In that case, you can remember that Article 93 is related to Speaker of Lok Sabha. Meanwhile, Article 178 is related to Speaker of Legislative Assembly. Okay? Yes. So the election of Speaker is mentioned in the Constitution of India. Very, very important. Because there are many things which have not been mentioned in Constitution but left to the interpretation of Supreme Court. But many things, or in other terms, few important things are mentioned in the Constitution by itself. So UPSC in many situations ask question like, they give a statement and ask, is this mentioned in the Constitution? Or they give a statement that this has been mentioned in the Constitution. In many situations, they are wrong because many important definitions, it has not been defined in the Constitution. But here you can see that the Constitution of India itself has mentioned about the election of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. What is that? After the general election, the first session is to elect Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Keep this in mind. When is the Speaker and Deputy Speaker is elected is after every general election, the first session of that Legislative Assembly or Lok Sabha is for the election of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. And they must be the member of that particular house. That's the most important qualification for a speaker. Okay. So during the absence of speaker from the office, the deputy speaker takes over his office. Fine. The speaker generally belongs to the ruling party. See, generally belongs to the ruling party. It's a convention. It's not mentioned in the Constitution. Okay. So the speaker generally belongs to ruling party is a convention. Okay, because majority wins it. Since we are electing the speaker from the election in the Lok Sabha or general legislative assembly, usually the speaker belongs to the ruling party. Okay, so the speaker remains in the office till the next speaker is sworn in. This is very important. Why? In general, other members of that particular house cease their membership. Their membership stops once it is dissolved. But the speaker alone remains in the position until the next speaker is sworn in. Very important. Okay, sometimes what happens when there is a when that particular house is dissolved due to some reason, the speaker resigns for his party. Okay, usually what happens is the speaker remains till the next election takes place, and once the election is done, new government is formed and the new speaker is elected, and then only the speaker ceases to exist. But what happens is, if it is dissolved in mid of the tenure, what happens is that the speaker sometimes resigns, and then a temporary speaker is appointed, and that particular position is called as interim speaker. Very important. Interim speaker is an important concept asked in UPSC many times. Okay, next. So when vacancy arises when it comes to speaker is that first is when he resigns, as I told you, when he resigns due to various reasons, or removed from the office by a resolution of assembly, or if he ceases to be the member of house due to various reasons, or if he dies. 4 times the office becomes vacant, either he is resigning or he is removed from the office by a resolution of the assembly, or if he is ceasing to be the member of the house, or if he dies. So when does a removal take place is that removal of speaker takes place through a resolution that is acquired 14 days notice for the motion. Later, his removal is discussed in the assembly and the speaker does not preside over that particular assembly where the resolution for removal of speaker is taking place. Do you understand? Generally, who is a presiding officer of that legislative assembly of Lok Sabha is the speaker. But when there is a resolution related to the removal of speaker is taking place, he does not preside over that particular assembly. Okay. The speaker has following powers and duties. He maintains the order and decorum of the assembly. Very, very important. First and foremost duty is he maintains the order and decorum, and he is the final interpreter of provisions of Constitution of India. This point is very important. He is the final interpreter of provisions of Constitution of India, the rules of procedure and conduct of business of assembly, the legislative precedents within the assembly. So whatever is related to that particular assembly is a final interpreter of that particular constitution of the Constitution of India related to that assembly, rules of procedure, conduct of business of assembly, and the legislative precedents within the assembly. He adjourns or suspends the assembly. Very important. Adjournment, suspension is coming under his power. And he does not have a vote, but when there is a tie, he has casting vote. He has casting vote when it comes to case of tie. And he can also allow secret sitting of the house at the request of leader of house. Usually the leader of house is prime minister or chief minister. Okay. So keep it in mind. You can ask me, leader of house is speaker. No, he is a presiding officer. But leader of house is the head of the powerful house in that particular assembly. Who will be that ruling party? Mostly the prime minister or the chief minister will be the head of the ruling party. Okay, he decides whether it is a money bill or not. This is most important question when it comes to UPSC. Whose decision is final related to money bill is the speaker. Next is he decides the question of disqualification related to 10th schedule, that is anti-defection law. His decision is final when it comes to anti-defection law. He appoints the chairman of all the committee. Very important. See, he appoints the chairman of all the committee and he himself is the chairman of 3 committees. This will definitely come in UPSC. He himself is the chairman of 3 committee. What are those? Is Business Advisory Committee, Rules Committee, and General Purpose Committee. You see, nowadays UPSC is asking at least one question related to committee every year in terms of preliminary examination. So he appoints the chairman of all the committee and he himself is the chairman of 3 committee, that is Business Advisory Committee, Rules Committee, and General Purpose Committee. Along with this, if he is inside any committee, then automatically he becomes the chairman of that committee. Do you understand? So I'm repeating again, he appoints the chairman of all the committees and then he himself is the chairman of 3 committees, namely Business Advisory Committee, Rules Committee, and General Purpose Committee. And other than this, if he is a member of any committee, then he will be the chairman of that particular committee. Okay? Yes. So next topic is road safety quartet and the road ahead. See, this is something related to mains. We can expect this question in mains because the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has given a statement that about 1,47,913 lives have been lost due to road traffic accident. And according to National Crimes Bureau, among that about 1,50,000 road accident deaths are taking place every year. Okay. So Lancet is an organization who has given a recent reading on road safety and they say that by doing some correction, the deaths due to road accidents can be reduced. okay, and that too can be reduced at the rate of 25 to 40%. Okay, so according to them, what are all the well-known risk factors? Is that high speed, driving under the influence of alcohol, not using proper helmets, very important, because in some states helmets have been made mandatory, but in some states helmets are not made mandatory. This is one example of uneven implementation of rules and regulations. We'll see all those. Not wearing seat belts and not using child restraints. These are the four important well-known risk factors when it comes to road safety issues. So what are the issues highlighted in developing countries is that structural problems. So what happened? There is a development taking place, but the development is unplanned. So motorization, many people are using individual transportation, but for that particular development, there is no proper structural provisions done by the government. Okay. In India, speedy highway construction takes place without reconciling fast and slow moving traffic. See, many problems take place during the construction itself, not even after or before the construction. During the construction itself, many accidents take place. And there is a presence of wrong side driving, absence of adequate traffic police forces, ramshackle vehicles without proper maintenance. All these things are taking place. Why are there so many fatalities in India alone? This is a very important question. Why India is a place where more fatalities are taking place due to road safety issues? Is that people do not properly follow traffic rules, and they are finding it easy to bribe policemen than actually paying the penalty. Okay, so bribe, and it is a question of behavioral issue. Okay, we are not ready to follow the rules and regulations. This is our issue. What happens? Many people have office at 10 a.m. Okay, so proper planning might help when we are starting at 9 or based on the distance. But what people do? They sleep till 9 o'clock and only wake up after that, and they just start running. During that time, what happens is that 1 day or 2 days you are late, no issues. But when it becomes a habit, you tend to ignore the traffic rules, and we are starting to bribe the policemen. Okay. And next point, more accidents on highways have been due to high vehicular speeds and high volume of traffic on these roads. Driver violations also take place, wrong side driving, wrong lane usage of heavy vehicles, violation of traffic lights, intoxication are all behavioral issues. Issues such as gaps in median on the national highways. This is one infrastructure based issue. What happens is that the mid lane, okay, the divider is not proper. Somewhere it is damaged, somewhere it is having gap, and people try to take a wrong U-turn there. All these are issues when it comes to the infrastructural problems. And lack of rapid trauma care on highways. So many accidents we'll see are taking place in rural areas. So when you're traveling in highway, what happens? There is many rural areas we have to pass to reach some cities. And when there is an accident in the rural area, for proper health care, the victim has to be taken to a long distance. So what happens whenever the delay is taking place after the accident, the probability of treating the patient, the probability of patient recovering is becoming very less. That is one issue. So what are the various steps taken by India is that India amended the Motor Vehicles Act in 2019. Okay, but it's not uniformly implemented in the state government. As I told you, the helmet, one such important example is helmet has been made mandatory in many places. Even within the states, I'll tell you, there are uneven implementation of rules. For example, the headquarters, every capital of every state will have the rules followed. But when you're going to a small towns or cities, then people do not usually follow the rules and regulation. This is one example of uneven implementation within the state itself. The Texas National Road Safety Board was constituted under the Act. But what happened? It is only having advisory power. That is one important issue. Next is the World Bank has approved almost 250 million loan to support India for the state support program for road safety. This can be a question. Which of the following has granted loan related to road safety of India is World Bank? About $250 million. And what are the issues with implementation is, as I told you, they do not have even enforcement, and the methods are also very much conventional. Okay, they are not following new. See, whenever the needs are changing, the methods also has to be changed, but it is not followed in our country. Low emphasis is placed on the structural change, and raising engineering standards has to be done, like roads, signage, signals. Training for scientific accident investigation has to take place. Policy skills, simply speaking, skilled people has to be involved in terms of policy making and in its implementation. Okay, so now the organization which gave the report is also giving the solution. What is the solution is that the Lancet calculated that 17% of road traffic injury could be avoided if proper trauma care facilities is improved. This is point number one. It's very important. This can be a mains question. Keep this in mind. We spoke about what is the issue, and then we spoke about what is the issue, especially in our country. Then we spoke about what are all the steps taken by our country, and in that steps, what are all the problems we have studied, and now we are going to study about the way forward or solutions. This is how you write a mains answer usually. So first point they are saying is 17% of road traffic can be reduced when a proper trauma care facilities are improved. Second is, as I told you, accidents take place in rural areas on highways, so that poorly equipped district hospital or medical college hospital has to be upgraded. Next is, positive user behavior has to be improved, like slower travel, wearing of helmets, seat belts, and so on should be made normal. Okay, it has to be normalized. It should not be like a rule. It has to become a behavior of people. If you see in how it can be implemented is that first you make the rule and then you make it very strict. So people follow it, keep following it, and the policeman has to check periodically. So this take place some particular period of time. So after that, what happens? Even though the rules are not, even though the police is not checking properly, it will become a habit for people, and then people generally start doing that. Okay. So next is, in short term, slowing down traffic, particularly near habitations, segregating slower vehicles, enforcing seat belt and helmet use, cracking down on drunken drivers are all one of the important solutions provided by the Lancet. Okay, fine. So next, World Drug Report 2022. Usually when we speak about drug report or something, we talk about societal issues. This particular report, World Drug Report, is interesting because it speaks about the environmental impact of this drug markets, illicit drug markets. Okay, so this environmental impact of illicit drug market is very important. Why? Because in general, whenever we speak about drug report, we speak about the societal impact. But here we are talking about the environmental impacts. Let's see into the report. So the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, this was once a UPSC prelims question. Okay, has released a report called as World Drug Report 2022. So what they are saying is that highlights of the report is that the illicit drug markets can have local, community or individual level impacts on environment. First key finding is that the indoor cannabis is having between 16 and 100 times more carbon footprint compared to outdoor cannabis. See, indoor cannabis is having 16 to 100 times more carbon footprint than the outdoor cannabis. Other environmental impact is that substantial deforestation. What happens? People go into the deep forest and they do deforestation and start cultivating cannabis there, so that it is not easy to find out. Okay, so what happens? This is leading to substantial deforestation for illicit cocoa cultivation, waste generated during synthetic drug manufacture, and the dumping of waste which can affect soil, water and air directly, as well as organisms, animals and food chain indirectly. Just imagine when these drugs go into the system of animals and plants, definitely bioaccumulation and magnification result in the problems to human being also. Continued growth in drug production and trafficking is taking place because it has reached the record high in 2020, almost 11% from 2019 to 1,982 tons. Cocaine seizures also have been increased despite of COVID-19 pandemic. So in COVID-19 pandemic, what happened? There was so much restriction, but still the demand for cocaine has increased. Almost 1,424 tons has been seized in 2020. So seizure data suggests that cocaine trafficking is expanding to other regions apart from North America, Europe, because these places, North America and Europe, was major markets for this illicit drugs. But now it is giving us a report, shocking report, that it is expanding outside these main markets also. To Africa and Asia also it is expanding. Opium production worldwide grew 7% between 2020 and 21 to 7,930 tons due to an increase in production in Afghanistan. Very important. It's an international affair. Okay. So key drugs broken down by the region. What are the key drugs broken down by the region is, in many countries in Africa and South and Central America, the largest proportion of people in treatment for drug use disorder are primarily for cannabis. Okay. Second is, in Eastern and Southeastern Europe and Central Asia, most often treatment for opioid use disorders. In United States, Canada, overdose deaths are due to non-medical use of fentanyl continue to break records. See, in many countries of Africa, South and Central America, it is cannabis. Eastern, Southeastern and Central Asia, opioid use disorders. United States, Canada, it is fentanyl, a non-medical usage of fentanyl. Okay, usage of prescriptible drugs. Okay, next is a possible growing capacity to manufacture amphetamine in Ukraine if the conflict persists. Okay, so there was a significant increase in the number of reported clandestine laboratories in Ukraine, and it is skyrocketing from 17 dismantled laboratories in 2019 to 79 in 2020. Okay, so what they are saying is, this Ukraine conflict is used by illicit drug traffickers, and they are increasing the laboratories where amphetamine is manufactured. It is also another important drug. Next is new guidelines against service charge. So what is the new guidelines against service charge is that the Central Consumer Protection Authority is issuing guidelines asking the hotels and restaurants not to collect service charge from customers. Very important. So new guidelines is that the service charge should not be collected. See, sometimes whatever we study in current affairs does not just help us in terms of examination. It is also very important for our day-to-day life, because many aspirants who are preparing are staying somewhere outside the home, and they are in a position to visit some hotels and restaurants, and there you can just check the bill. In many places they collect something called a service charge. But now the Central Consumer Protection Authority has issued guidelines not to collect service charge to these hotels and restaurants. What are the guidelines? The CCPA has issued 5 major guidelines regarding the levy of service charge. What are those? It is, no hotel or restaurant shall add service charge automatically or by default in the bill. Number 1 is, it should not be automatically added in the bill. It should not be collected from consumers by any other name. Either in name of service charge or any other name, the service charge should not be collected. No hotel or restaurant shall force a consumer pay service charge and shall clearly inform the consumer that service charge is voluntary, optional and consumer's discretion. They are not telling you that the hotels or the restaurants should not collect service charge at all. They are just making it voluntary. So if I wish, I can give. They can tell that you can give a service charge, and if you don't pay also, there is no issue. But the hotel should not force them to pay in terms of bill or something, and automatically it should not be added. No restriction or entry or provision of service based on collection of service charge. You should not discriminate based on service charge. For example, many people are going to hotels. 10 people are paying service charge and 10 people are not paying service charge. Based on that, you should not do any discrimination. Okay, and it should not be collected adding it along with the food bill, levying GST on the total amount. Okay, yes. So what can a consumer do in case of a violation of this guidelines? Is they have 4 options at different level of escalation. So what are those? Let's see them. First is he or she can make a request to the hotel. Okay, first is you are requesting the hotel. Second is you are lodging a complaint to National Consumer Helpline. Okay, first is you are doing it at the restaurant level itself. Next is you are filing the complaint in the National Consumer Helpline, which works as an alternative pre-dispute redressal mechanism at pre-litigation level. That is, before going to the court, before that itself there is a mechanism. Third is the complaint can be lodged by making a call to the number of 915 or NCH mobile. So third is they can complain to the Consumer Commission directly itself through e-Dakhil portal. Okay. Fourth is, this is third, and fourth is they can submit the complaint to whom? District collector of that concerned district. So I am repeating. First is you are making the hotel request to the hotel itself, and then they are not listening. Now we are going to National Consumer Helpline. It is a pre-litigation level. Okay, this is not like a case. They are like, they are like alternative dispute redressal mechanism. Now also they are not listening. You are complaining in the National Consumer Commission, and after that, fourth is they can give a complaint to directly to the district collector itself. Okay, so these are all the what can consumer do when there is this violation of this guidelines take place. A consumer can complain directly to the CCPA by sending an email also. What is the Central Consumer Protection Authority? It's a statutory body. What is a statutory body? A body which is constituted based on a parliamentary act. The Consumer Protection Act of 2019 is the act under which the Central Consumer Protection Authority is constituted. Very, very important. This can be a UPSC question. Since this is a very important move, because service charge has been one of the important collection of many hotels and restaurants, and this is a very important current affairs. Next is why it is constituted is it is to protect the rights of the consumer by cracking down on unfair trade practices, false and misleading advertisement. See, in this 2022 there was a question called as greenwashing. That is false and misleading advertisement are detrimental to the interest of public and consumers. It will be headquartered in National Capital Region of Delhi, but the central government may set up regional offices also. Okay, mostly there are regional offices for almost all the authorities. Okay, so what is the composition? It has a chief commissioner as a head. It has a chief commissioner as a head and 2 other commissioners as members, one of whom will deal with the matters relating to the goods, while others will look into cases relating to services. Very, very important. Okay, so what happens? It is having chief commissioner and 2 other commissioners. So in that, what happens is that in that 2 commissioners, so you have a chief and 2 commissioners. One commissioner is taking care of goods, and the other one will be taking care of services, goods and services. And it will have an investigation wing, and it will be headed by a director general. District collectors too will have the power to investigate complaints of violations of consumer rights, unfair trade practices, and false or misleading advertisements. See, it is very interesting. Usually, we don't think that collector will be related to consumer affairs, but district collector is also having power to do investigation related to consumer affairs. Okay, fine. So next topic we are going to go to Draft National Policy for Persons with Disabilities. What is this draft national policy for persons with disabilities? Is Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities has extended the time for public to submit comments on the draft national policy for persons with disabilities. So what is this draft national policy? Is that we'll see. So it's a national program on the prevention of disabilities focused on traditional causes. Okay, but there were other causes of disabilities such as malnutrition, medical negligence, and then socio-cultural factors and impairment caused by disasters. All these things come under this draft national policy. And the Right of Persons with Disabilities Act also has expanded the number of disabilities from 7 to 21. Okay. So, however, the issue of disabilities remain unresolved on the majority of issues. See, first is prevention of disabilities focused on traditional causes. Along with that, there are disabilities due to some other reasons like malnourishment, medical negligence, socio-cultural factors, and impairment. What are these? Malnourishment is sometimes malnourishment can include various types of nutrient deficiency. So that also comes under the concept of disability. Medical negligence. Sometimes improper medical care is given and people tend to lose some of the ability. And then socio-cultural factors and impairment by disaster are also coming under the concept of disability. The Right of Person with Disability Act of 2016 has expanded these disabilities from 7 to 21, and this policy is calling for comprehensive national program for the prevention of disabilities and other medical conditions that can lead to disability. Okay, it stated that 1/3 of most disabilities in children were preventable if detected early. Very, very important. See, that is why nowadays many medical institutions, many hospitals are offering, once a newborn is born, they are offering certain tests to check if the child is prone to any kind of disability. And sometime early detection of disability can help in treating or permanently curing the child from particular disability. So that is what the draft is also stating that. Okay, so proper care can help in almost prevention of 1/3 of disability in children. And the draft policy also states that the states and union territories should add a provision on compliance with this Right to Persons with Disability Act when granting permission or recognition to educational institution. Along with that, module on disability should be included in MBBS and other medical courses for the better understanding of the issue. So, Ministry of Road Transport and Highway will be directed to issue necessary guidelines for making modification in the personal vehicles being used by persons with disabilities as per requirement. And it is also the revision of policy also was required as national policy on disability. Existing policy was constituted in 2006, almost more than 10 years. Okay, so almost 16 years. So which India signed the United Nations Conventions on Right of Person with Disability in 2007. After that, we are not having a proper updation. So this demand for national, policy of rights of disability is very, very important. Okay, we'll go to the next topic. Next is State Ranking Index under National Food Security Act. See, this National Food Security is one of the important concepts. Okay, every year you can expect at least one question from this National Food Security Act. Recently, Government of India came up with the first ever state ranking index under the National Food Security Act. See, this first ever, it's an extreme statement, very important. So, what is this index? The state ranking index of NFSA attempts to document the status and progress of implementation of National Food Security Act. So it highlights the reforms undertaken by states and UTs. Based on that, the ranking will be given. So what happens? It's a cross-learning environment. So when a state is getting a highest rank, the other states can learn from them. So what is a plus? What is a minus? What is a problem? Everything can be, it can be used as a cross-learning mechanism. So scale up reform measures by all states and union territories. So the index is built on three key pillars. What are those three key pillars? First is NFSA, coverage, targeting and provision of the act. First is coverage, targeting and provision of the act. Next is delivering platform and nutrition initiative. These three are very, very important. Fine. Performance. Odisha topped the list of 34 states and union territories. See, first place is Odisha and Ladakh is the last place. 9 of the 14 special category states and UTs, state and northeast were ranked among the lowest. Northeast Himalayan states, island regions have ranked the lowest, which means that they are lacking in implementation due to various reasons. Goa came last among the general category states. In general category states, Goa was the last. Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh scored the highest and secured second and third. So first being Odisha, second being UP, third being Andhra Pradesh. The state performed very well on all parameters indicators governing the implementation of NFSA through public distribution system. Okay. What is the score? Odisha got index score of 0.836, UP being 0.797 and Andhra was close 0.794. See, there is no much difference between UP and Andhra Pradesh, but still the ranking is very, very important. Tripura, Himachal Pradesh and Sikkim secured top positions among special category states. Despite the logistical limitations in this area, they have really performed well. See, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Tripura are having so many issues, especially the terrain is very, very, very difficult. Movement of food, production of food itself is very tough in many places, but still they did really well. Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman Diu scored the highest in terms of coverage and targeting. I told you three, right? First is coverage and targeting and provisions of the act. Second is distribution. Third is nutrition. In that place, Jharkhand, UP, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Daman Diu scored the highest in terms of coverage, targeting and implementing provision of NFSA. They obtained nearly full indicator level scores. Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana had best delivery platform. The second one, it is nothing but Bihar, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana because they have a good efficient public distribution system. So very important topic we are going to see is National Food Security Act. What is this National Food Security Act? The NFSA was enacted on July 5, 2013. Okay, it is to celebrate the day the conference was organized to deliberate and discuss the national security, food security, best practices followed in public distribution system. Crop diversification is one of the important concepts when it comes to nutritional value because sometimes a particular state for economical value keeps on cultivating one particular crop. Sometimes instead of concentrating on food crop, some states or places concentrate on plantation crops, cash crops. That also will lead to malnutrition. So these are the issues. And another important thing is storage is also very important. Sometimes excess production take place, but because of poor storage, we tend to lose due to less shelf life of these food products. So storage will help us in prevention of wastage of food items. So after enactment, it gave legal entitlement to 67% of population, 75% in rural, 15% in urban, to receive highly subsidized food grains. Under this targeted public distribution system, what is this targeted public distribution system is, you have a target, the beneficiaries are selected for particular reason and they are targeted for higher efficiency. So food grain is sold at highly subsidized price of 1 rupees, 2 rupees, 3 rupees per kg for nutrient cereals, wheat and rice respectively. So nutrient cereals 1 rupee per kg, wheat 2 rupee per kg, rice 3 rupees per kg, all these things. Under subsection 1 of section 3 of the Act, the term eligible households comprises of two categories. Very, very, very important. This can be a question. Under National Food Security Act, what is the meaning of eligible household? This can be a question. First is priority household category is entitled to 5 kg per person per month. It's not per household. So if a household is having 5 members, it means 5 into 5 kg per person is equal to, they are entitled to 25 kg Okay. Antyodaya Anna Yojana families are entitled to 35 kg per family per month. Coverage under the act is based on population figures of census 2011. So first is priority household, second is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. The act is now being implemented in all 36 states on UTs and covers about 81.35 crore persons. Very important, almost 67% of the population is covered under this. Next is nominated members in Rajya Sabha. We know very well about this. So what happens in Rajya Sabha? About 12 members are nominated by the president from various fields. We'll see about that. So Olympic sprinter PT Usha, music composer Ilayaraja, philanthropist Virendra Hegde, screenwriter V. Vijayendra Prasad have been nominated to the Rajya Sabha in the category of eminent persons nominated by the president. Okay, 12 members every year are nominated. So what is a constitutional provision? According to the Article 80, Clause 1, Subclause A, the Constitution of India makes provision for the nomination of 12 members to the Rajya Sabha by the President in accordance with the provision of Article 80, Clause 3. 80 Clause 3 says that persons to be nominated as a person must be possessing special knowledge or practical experience in terms of literature, science, art and social service. Do you understand? So, 80 clause 1 subclause A is saying that 12 members can be nominated, and how they can be nominated is mentioned in 80 clause 3. According to 80 clause 3, President can nominate those persons who have special knowledge or practical experience in terms of 4 categories: literature, science, art and social service. You can see here. See, PT Usha, Ilayaraja, Virendra Hegde, screenwriter Vijay Prasad, Virendra Hegde, social service, screenwriter, and the music composer come under the concept of art. Okay, PT Usha also come under the concept of sports. All these things art. Okay, so nominated members in Rajya Sabha. What is this? 12 members are nominated to Rajya Sabha by the president, and the term is 6 years. We know that. Lok Sabha it is 5 years, but Rajya Sabha it is 6 years. This is for their contribution towards art, literature, science and social service. The right has been bestowed upon the president according to the 4th schedule under Article 4 Clause 1 and 80 Clause 2 of the Constitution of India. The president is having this power. Powers and privilege of such member is that a nominated member enjoys all powers and privileges of a member of parliament. Okay, they take part in proceedings of the house like any member. They have voting right, everything, but they are not entitled to vote in election of president. Very important concept. But in the impeachment process they vote. Removal process they can vote, but election they cannot vote. They, however, have the rights to vote in vice presidential election. According to Article 99 of Constitution, a nominated member is allowed 6 months time should he join a political party. If he is not joining, that person will be removed. Okay? Yes. So this is all about polity topics. So we will see next topics in the next video. Thank you.